Hey guys, it's me for another edition of the Willoughbys. All right, what's been happening, friends? Seriously, what is the haps? All right, we got this family. Mom and dad are awful, therefore kids become awful. And when I say awful, I just mean they're rude, right? Like they are mean to each other. They're mean. They're rude. Um, and so it's kind of a funny, weird thing. But the kids are weird and rude and mean because their parents are rude and weird and mean. We've met a few different people. So we've met mom and dad. We've met the siblings. So we have Tim, Barnaby A, Barnaby B. They just call him A and B. We have Jane, the beastly child, who was a kid that was left on their doorstep, had really cute rings, little curls. The mom cut off the curls so that Jane didn't want to keep her. They decided not to keep the baby, and they left it on another guy's doorstep who was an old widower. Who that's where we kind of left off, was that like he was a widower that lived all by himself in a mansion. He had lost his wife and children and child to a terrible accident, very tragic, and he was just sad and lonely living in his mansion all by himself. So that's where the beastly baby has gone. And then everybody's trying to get rid of everybody. So the kids want to get rid of the parents want to get rid of the kids. So the kids set up and like dropped off a brochure for like this crazy vacation on a cruise ship that was like super dangerous. Wanted the parents to go. The parents took the bait. The parents have gone. The kids thought, yay, we're all by ourselves now. This is going to be awesome. But what ended up happening instead is the parents have gotten a nanny. Nanny turns out so far to be kind of cool, right? Like she's not taking any gruff from Tim. She's kind of setting him up against himself on his own rules and stuff. And the kids like her. She cooks good food, right? Like the mom cooked awful food. So they're stoked to be eating food. They have good boundaries that are being set. And it seems like she's like a pretty nice girl so far, lady. Parents are alive. They just sent a postcard and they let them know that they are selling the house from under the kids. Awful. And that's kind of where we left off, right? Like they got a postcard in the mail, and the postcard said, don't be alarmed if people come by, just hide. And they were like, why are people coming by? And then they looked outside, and sure enough, there was a for sale sign outside. All right. Chapter 9, Clever Camouflage. The woman at the door handed Tim a card that said her name and explained that she was a real estate agent. I'll be by in an hour with a prospective buyer, she told him. And I know your parents have explained that you children must remain out of sight while I show that house. Remember that, she said, sternly shaking her finger. 1 hour from now, out of sight. Oh dear, wailed Jane when he told them. Does that mean the coal bin? I can't bear the coal bin. We've heard about this coal bin a couple times. We still don't know what it is. Tim thought it over. She only said out of sight. She didn't say coal bin specifically. If only we could make ourselves invisible, Barnaby A remarked. Yes, we have a comic called Invisible Man, his twin reminded him. If we could just do that. I have a better idea, actually, Tim announced. We will camouflage ourselves. What's that? Asked Jane. Does it hurt? No, Dodo, it means we will make ourselves blend in so that no one will notice us. We have toy soldiers in camouflage outfits, we have toy soldiers in camouflage outfits, Barnaby A remembered. This is why it's important to use punctuation marks. There was an exclamation point. It changes the way I read things. Barnaby A remembered. The cat chewed them, so they're ruined now, he added sadly. Quiet. We don't have much time. 5 minutes have already passed. Tim looked at the other children carefully. He said. You're easy because you're wearing the sweater today. Yes, it's Wednesday. I always wear the sweater on Wednesdays. Hold up your arms, Tim instructed him, like this. Tim demonstrated, holding each arm out and bent, as if somebody was aiming a gun at them. Barnaby A imitated him. The overly large sweater sleeves flopped over his hands. Good, said Tim, examining his pose. Now pull the neck of the sweater up over your head, Tim said, and Barnaby A did so. Excellent. Relax for a minute now. Then get the largest wastebasket from Father's study and stand in it, in your pose. Barnaby A. did so. They all looked at him, and Kim said, "Perfect! You are camouflaged as a cactus." Place yourself in a corner of the dining room, and when the doorbell rings announcing the prospective buyer, assume your pose. Choose a place by a sunny window. Cacti prefer sun. What if somebody tries to water me or test my prickers? Barnaby A. said in a muffled voice. They won't, replied Tim. I am setting up a notice that says stay away. This highly poisonous cactus exudes toxic fumes. Might I be a cactus too? Jane asked, watching as Barnaby A., sweater sleeves dangling, went off to the dining room with his wastebasket. No, Dodo, you will be a lamp. Here, let me just look in this closet. Tim went to the hall closet and stood on tiptoe to find something up on a high shelf. Good! She left it behind. Here you are, Jane. He opened a large hat box and handed Jane their mother's going-to-church hat, which was dark brown straw in the shape of a bowl. Kneel on the table there, beside the sofa, Tim directed his sister. She climbed up and knelt on the table. It hurts my knees, Jane whimpered. Tim thought it over. All right, he said. Squat and hunch. Jane squatted and hunched. Good, here's your lampshade, Tim said, and he lowered this large hat onto her head. It covered her face. Okay, you guys, I'm having so many thoughts right now. Do you think that they can hold these poses that long? Are they going to be able to hold it the whole time somebody's looking at their giant house? I don't know if they're going to be able to keep these poses, so that's something to think about right now, which is kind of funny. And it's ridiculous, but that's funny. All right. Lamps. Oh, so I can't see, Jane said in a worried voice. Lamps don't need to see, Tim replied. When the doorbell rings, assume the pose and hold very still while the prospective buyers come through. Jane lifted her shade slightly and peered out. What if someone tries to turn me on? She asked nervously. Good thought, Jane, Tim said. I'm going to give you 10 points today for thinking of that possibility. And I give myself 20 points, he added, for finding the solution. He went to his father's desk, used a pen and a paper, and returned to the table, where Jane was kneeling, with a note in his hand. The electricity in this house is defective, and may electrocute you if you turn on a lamp, said the note that Tim had printed. He placed it by Jane's feet. When they come through, he told her, hold very still. Don't let that shade wobble, and make yourself as thin as possible. How much time do we have? Barnaby B. asked uneasily. I don't have a camouflage yet. I wish it had been my day for the sweater. Don't be a worrywart, B, Tim said. Come out here to the hall. Stand there by the door and hold your arms up. Barnaby B. did so, and Tim hung overcoats, taken from the hall closet, over his arms. There, he said, you are a coat tree. Will people fling coats all over me? I might sneeze or suffocate, Barnaby B. said. No one will. I will prepare a notice that says, the furnace in this house is defective. Wear your coat. Do not hang your coat or you will freeze. But my face shows, Barnaby B. complained. Tim took his father's felt hat, the one he wore to the bank each day, and hung it over Barnaby B.'s face. There, he said. It doesn't smell nice, Barnaby B. said in a muffled voice. It doesn't smell nice. That's because of the sweatband, Tim explained. All men's hats have sweatbands inside. They smell nasty. Just hold your breath and you won't notice. Now, practice being motionless, all of you, he called, so that they could hear him in the other rooms. It was silent as the children remained motionless in their poses. Tim went to the closet again. Tim, called a voice from the dining room. It was the cactus. Tim, called the coat tree from the hall. Tim, the lamp called from its table. What? Tim's voice was muffled. What are you going to be? Asked the cactus. What will you be? Tim asked the lamp. What is your camouflage? Tim asked the coat tree. From the floor in front of the living room fireplace, Tim replied, I am wrapped in Mother's mink coat, he called, his voice still muffled by the fur. I am camouflaged as a fur rug. What if someone steps on you, Tim? The lamp asked in a worried voice. I would be very brave and very silent and completely immobile, no matter how bad the pain, he replied. However, it is unlikely. I have set up a notice that says, the floor under this rug is rotten. If you step on this rug, you will fall into the basement and be desperately injured. Now hush. I hear someone on the front steps. The camouflaged Willoughbys all fell silent. They heard the front door open and the voice of the woman Tim had met an hour before. She was speaking now to the prospective buyer. This is a beautifully decorated home, she said. Such good taste. Please come in and hang up your coat. I'll show you around. Okay. This is why making pictures in your head as you read is such a beautiful way to learn things and remember stuff, right? Can you just picture that? So this kid has a sweater that's way too big for him. It doesn't fit. The arms are floppy. It's all a mess. And he's pulled it up over his head. And he's pretending to be a cactus. He's just standing there like this, right? It's lunacy. It's crazy. And then this poor little girl with this giant hat on her head is crouched. She's squatting and hunched over to pretend that she is a lamp. Again, it's madness. It's so good, though, because you can picture these things in your head. And the signs that he is writing, the brilliant thing about the signs that he is writing is that he's also discouraging people from buying this house, right? Like the furnace is broken, so don't take off your coat. Well, that's a huge expense that somebody has to pay. The floor is rotten, right? You get electrocuted. Highly toxic, poisonous cactus. So even though when Tim is writing, I don't know what his intention is, right? I can't see that far ahead. But what he's writing is doing really good things because it's also going to discourage people from actually buying the home. Maybe. That's a prediction that I have, though. So that would be a great thing for me to write on a Post-it note, correct? I think people aren't going to want to buy this home because they think that so much stuff is broken. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it might be. All right. Let's see. Will my voice handle one more? Just trying to count the pages. I think I can do one more chapter. Okay. An alabaster Aphrodite. Chapter 10. I'm amazed that you children didn't emerge dirtier from the cold bin, Nanny said. I'd expect I'd have to bathe you all and launder your clothes. They're not going to tell us what happened after prospective buyers were here. But each time you reappear quite clean. They were seated at the supper table eating succulent pot roast. Nearby on the counter was the still warm pie they would have for dessert. Nanny, it had turned out, was an outstanding cook. Even her morning oatmeal, now that she had added raisins and brown sugar, was delicious. 4 prospective buyers had been through the house by now, but no one had shown an interest in buying it. Each one left looking puzzled, murmuring comments about the odd plants and rugs and lamps and furniture and expressing concern over toxic air, bad wiring, a broken furnace, and rotten floorboards. We are very careful, Tim explained. We have found ways to stay out of sight and remain clean. I'm a lamp, Jane said. You are indeed, dear, said Nanny, leaning over to wipe a bit of gravy from Jane's chin. A real little lamb. I'm a cactus, Barnaby said. Nanny had gone to the counter to get the pie. She turned and said fondly, Practice? I didn't know you played an instrument, dear. Where do you practice? You're quite clever. Oh, you're very quiet. I'm a coat tree, Barnaby B. said with a frown. Nanny sliced the pie neatly into triangular shaped pieces. She slid each one onto a small plate. Poetry? She said with a smile. You are poetry. Well, I wouldn't say that exactly, but it's a lovely thought, isn't it? She took the children's empty dinner plates away and began to pass the pie around. Where do you go, Nanny, when prospective buyers come? Asked Barnaby. You reappear quite clean as well. Nanny blushed. Oh, I don't really want to say. Tell, Tim commanded, or you won't eat your pie. Do you camouflage yourself? I guess you could say that, Nanny replied. The pie is raspberry, by the way. Are you a rug or a coat tree? Asked Barnaby Bee. A lamp, or maybe a cactus? Nanny took a bite of raspberry pie and chewed, with a satisfied look. Then she announced in a prim, educational voice, I'm a statue. I do this. After setting her fork down on the plate, she got up from her chair and stood beside the stove, where she created a pose with both arms behind her head and one hip jutting forward. I stand in the upstairs hall, next to the linen closet. But you don't look one bit like a statue, Nanny, Tim pointed out. You're wearing a flowered apron, elastic stockings, and lace-up shoes. Now who's being a dodo? Nanny told him. Of course I don't wear those things. We have plenty of warning before prospective buyers come. As soon as we are notified, I rush to my room and remove my shoes, stockings, apron, and all the rest. I powder myself with talc to look like alabaster. What's alabaster? Asked Jane. White, Tim told her, like marble. When I'm posing, Nanny went on, I believe I very much look like Aphrodite. Who's Aphrodite? Asked Jane, daughter of Zeus, also known as Venus, but the most famous statue of Venus has no arms. I have arms. She held them up. So I think of myself as Aphrodite when I'm posing as a statue. You mean you're naked, Nanny? Barnaby asked in amazement. Statues are never naked, Nanny said in a somewhat shocked voice. They are nude. Anyway, I drape myself. I use a sheet. So, Barnaby Bee said, poking his fork into a piece of raspberry pie, you stand there, nude, except for the sheet, and all powdered up in a pose, and perfectly still. Well, Nanny admitted, sometimes I wink. The other day, the prospective buyer who ran downstairs screaming, Tim asked, was that because you winked? Possibly. Nanny replied very primly. They were all silent for a moment, picturing the scene. The prospective buyer had looked truly horrified and had run shrieking through the front door and had not been seen since. What's that noise? Barnaby said suddenly. I hear something banging. It's at the front of the house, Jane said, listening. Someone is hammering. After a moment, the noise ceased. They all went to look. More words had been added to the sign that was tacked to the window box. Reduced? Cheaper? This house is never going to be sold. Tim murmured. I can't imagine why not, said Nanny, smiling in an Aphrodite-like way. Okay, so their plan is kind of working. I don't know if it was actually their plan, though. Maybe Nanny. Nanny seems a little bit brighter. But they're keeping people from buying the house, right? Which is kind of fun. And I think it's really hysterical that Nanny is doing the same thing, and she doesn't want them to sell the house either, it sounds like. And the wink, I can't actually wink. I think that's a funny fact about me. But just to scare them, right? Because they think it's a statue, and all of a sudden the statue winks. Can you imagine? Oh, so funny. All right, tomorrow's chapter is called An Astonishing Acquisition. And judging from the picture, I would guess it has to do with the beastly baby and the rich old guy that lives down the street. Commander Melanoff is his name. All right, well, guys, we are just buzzing along in this book, which is great. All right, have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.